Oops, excuse me. It's okay. If you don't understand, come and see me. I can tell you, I can explain to you more. Entity, mindfulness. You. Yeah, cool. What? Oh, what happened? Nice orange. Testing, testing. Testing, 1, 2, 3, 4, testing. Huh. So Ryan, your favorite is Minions. You like Minions, is it? Not really. Oh, okay, okay. Well, I see you wearing the Minion shirt like every week. So I sounded like it seems like you're a fan of Minions. That's why. Yeah, every week. Like his favorite T-shirt. All right, guys. So let's get started. It's 33 past the hour. And welcome to your final lectures. This is the final lecture, and the next time I see you, I'm going to basically see you in the same room, and it's going to be totally filled up with our long and lost friends. Who will be coming back to join us for the CA next week. I wanted to talk a little bit about a couple of things I want to do. Actually, there are 4 things I want to do, or 5 things I want to do. Well, I got a very busy list. I wanted to do. Well, first of all, I want to find out from you guys. Have you guys enjoyed this last 5 weeks lectures and tutorials? You definitely know where's my cheerleader. Thank you very much. I don't know about the rest of you guys. You enjoyed it or you didn't enjoy it, but there's one thing that you guys can do for me. What's that? Yeah, that's right. Feedback. Absolutely correct. You guys need to get on the system. The system has been open for a couple of weeks. You need to go in there and constructively, I would really appreciate if you could give me some feedback. Either you're giving me feedback, you're giving the administrators some feedback as far as these lectures are concerned. You know, in terms of what is it about these lectures that you liked, What is it that you really appreciate? What is it that you learned from this lecture? Huh? Right? Was I not funny? Was I too funny? Was I boring? Whatever it may be, if you can just put down those comments in those feedback forms, it would be so much appreciated. Huh? All right? It's very, very valuable for me so that I can keep coming back to NTU. Huh? I really enjoy coming back to NTU and seeing, great cohorts like you guys, man. So just amazing. So please do me a favor, spend some time today after these lectures and go in and put the feedback, guys. Huh? That would be really appreciated. Put that down as your note. Huh? I see some of you already doing it right now. Fantastic. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Huh? Yeah, if you're not sure how to fill out those forms, bring it to me. I fill out for you. Huh? That's one way of doing it. And if you think you have some feedback that could be, really, really effective for me, come and give it to me personally. I love feedbacks, huh? Right? I'm a little bit more different from most of the professors here, but yeah, please come give me feedback. I've been getting feedback throughout my life. So feedback is an important component. Feedback is part of quality control. Feedback is part of TQM, right? If you really, really look at it. Because when you make changes to your processes, you make changes to your systems, and then how do you see if whatever changes you have made, is that effective? You basically discover that through your feedback mechanisms, huh? All right, through your control charts. For example, control charts are a classical way of getting feedback itself. Do I put control charts for my feedback? You bet I do, huh? All right, I do. I know it sounds rather anal, but I do that. That's how I do to actually track my own performance and justify in terms of whether I should come back to NTU or not come back to NTU. Huh? Right? So please do yourself a favor if you could do that. That would be really, really good. That's number one. Number two is I just wanted to chat a little bit about CA next week. Huh? All right? So you all know your CAs. A couple of hints, couple of tips in terms of CAs. My recommendation, please be here by 12:30. If you could, come in at 12:30, grab seats. Huh? One of the things that you're going to hear Prof. Lee mention next week is you got to leave a seat vacant between your seats and the next person's seat. Right? So come in and do all that. Come in and do all that. Come in early as possible so that you're ready to take on the paper. Huh? Okay? The last thing I want you guys to do is come in at 1 o'clock sharp. Because you come in at 1 o'clock sharp, you're sitting right in front here. Huh? Right? You're going to be seated right in front here. So please come in early. 12:30 is a good time. I'm going to be here at 12:30 next week. So in case you guys got questions, you can step up to me and ask me those questions. If you want me to come in earlier, please let me know. Send me a little note, send me a little SMS, and tell me, Raymond, I want to see you at 12 o'clock or whatever it may be, then I can come in here. Huh? But please don't ask me to come in at 12 o'clock and then ask me what's coming up for the CA. Because I'm not going to tell you. All right? Because I'm very proud of my questions. And it's going to be really easy. Huh? All right, so can we do that? The other thing I also mentioned, please do not have a heavy lunch before your CA. Why? Because you don't want to fall asleep here. It's only a 1-hour paper with 2 questions. You can't go wrong. It's open book. Bring your smart gadgets. You want to bring your smart gadgets, you can. But I mentioned this in the tutorials. I'll tell you again, your smart gadgets can only be aligned to NTU website. Huh? You can only look at your notes, you can look at your tutorials, you can look at your answers. Do not attempt to go into Google or any other pages because if found, you will be reprimanded. Huh? I think there's going to be approximately 6 invigilators walking around. Huh? All right, most of them are Prof. Lee's cronies. All right, so yeah, so they're going to be walking around, so please don't, and obviously I'm going to be walking around too, because I'll be walking around and smiling at you. Remember what I said? You look at my question, you look up at me and you smile. Because it's going to be so simple and it's going to allow you to de-stress, diffuse your stress levels itself. Okay? So don't forget, yeah, no, you will, don't worry. All you need to do is look up and smile. But if you look up and smile and you shake like this, then you're doomed. Right, yeah. Look up at me and say, all right, then I know. 1 to 2, well, it's 1 hour. It's only 1 hour. I told you guys this, and I'll tell you again, 20 minutes. You need about 20-25 minutes for my segment. So if you have 20-25, you must have 20-25 minutes for my segment. If you don't, you're doomed. You're really doomed for my question. I don't know how long it takes for Prof. Lee because I don't know what question he's going to be setting. All right? So my question is 20-25 minutes, so please do take note of that. Please allocate, please prioritize. You're going to need time to read through the question, to do the question, to check the questions. You at least need those 3 elements. Is that fine? Please take care of your CA. The last element is your final exams. I won't see you between CA and the final exams. I will be there for the final exams, right? Yes, I'll be looking at you and smiling too. Huh? So just in case you, yeah. So that will be also happening in the final exams. Huh? Oh, and here's another thing, guys. Please do me a favor, can or not? Don't attempt to ask me questions at the last minute. Huh? Like for instance, CA is at 1 o'clock, and then 12 midnight, you're sending me questions, asking me questions. Huh? Because 12 midnight, I normally I'm asleep. All right? So please don't ask me, and I won't even answer probably the following day, because it's already too late. So give me some time. If you want to ask me questions, I give you cut off. Put all your questions in by Saturday if you don't mind. All right? By Saturday. If you can put all your questions in by Saturday, then I can make sure that I respond to your question. All my SMSs, there you go. Actually, I want to put it out there so you can see all my SMSs, all my people who are writing to me. That's not the reason. That was the other thing. I was supposed to show you guys something on my smartphone, which is actually an application. Let me look at it right now. It's an application that you can utilize. It is called Mind Tools. You're welcome to actually go look at it. I've used it extensively for a while. It's called Mind Tools. Mind Tools is, can you see that or not? Can or cannot? How's that? Now you can see. Now I can see it. All right. Okay. So there you are. There you go, guys. The website is Mind Tools. Go to the website. You can go to the website. Sign up at the website. There's a whole bunch of things. Oh, come on. All right. There's a whole bunch of things that you can actually find on the website itself, and it's great. A lot of the things that I've talked about in this classroom are also in there. Not so much from a leadership perspective, from team management, problem solving. Definitely from problem solving perspective, definitely from decision making perspective. So if I hit on the problem solving, go in there, oh, look at some of these problems. Oh, hang on. PDCA. Do you guys see it there or not? So PDCA is there. And no, this is not where I'm taking my exam questions from, FYI. So if you think you're going to go find exam questions in here, you will not find it. You see 8D for problem solving, quite a number of ways of doing that. The simplex process, root cause analysis. Click on root cause analysis. Let's see what's inside there. Okay, pull it out. There you go. You see a little bit in terms of root cause. So great tool. See, one of the things I always realize is you need good resources after you graduate from school. Or you want to leverage on resources that's available out there. So Mind Tools is one place that I like to visit. I think they are now on a subscription basis. I'm not sure, but go have a look at it. You can learn a lot of things, not just from a quality management perspective, but it actually transcends quality management, goes into leadership, and goes into a lot of different topics. There you are. You see a lot of this this stuff here. Go back. Decision making, time management, stress management, communication. Hey, stress management. I think some of you guys need stress management. All right, please go have a look at it. So there you go, Mind Tools. All right, guys? So you will find similarity between some of the tools I spoke about and the tools that are available in this website. Any questions on this? All right, okay. That doesn't mean for your CA, you can open up Mind Tools and look for answers. You can't even do that. So good stuff. So let me take this out of here. So that's for my cell phone. All right, so that's that. So let's look at the topic today. Oh, two more things. Not two more things. We're going to talk about quality. We're going to talk about COQ, cost of quality. We're going to talk about quality cost. And I did promise you guys we're going to do an in-lecture tutorial. All right, we will do a very brief in-lecture tutorial after the break itself. All right, because I want to make sure that you guys are familiar with a lot of these categories, and that's going to be one of the biggest thing, and that is categorization. Once again, for those who have actually looked at my past year papers, you will realize that I love this question. I love the question about COQs. All right, and because I love the question about COQs, you probably need to think about COQs a little bit more. All right, so that's one of the things that you want to keep in your mind. And I try to link up questions as much as possible. So let's look at quality cost today, guys. What is the significance? What does it mean in terms of cost of quality? Quality cost also is known as cost of quality. And as most of you realize, Well, if you don't realize it, at least I do. It is a term that is very, very widely used and also widely misunderstood among many organizations, especially people in management roles. They don't really understand the meaning of cost of quality, right? Now, I want to clarify, cost of quality isn't the price of creating processes, creating systems, creating quality products or even services. That's not what it means. It doesn't mean if I allocate time to go and develop a process so that I can produce better quality products. That's not cost of quality, right? It is actually the cost of not creating or not producing or not having a proper system, a proper process, or even quality product and service. Do you guys know the difference, right? All right, I'm assuming you know the difference. So it's not about the cost of putting in the system, but it's the cost of not putting in the system, because if you don't have the system, then you are going to be exposed basically to poor quality products. So why cost of quality? In a lot of cases, you realize that in some cases it's misinterpreted to mean cost of using quality methods, or even cost of quality referring to the expense of failing to provide a quality product or service. It's not that, but it's more than that. In some organization, quality costs or cost of quality is also known as failure dollars. Failure dollars. So dollars that results as a result of a failure in a system. And it could be basically different quality of related expenses. Let me ask you a question. Under what circumstances can cost of quality increase? Under what circumstances can cost of quality increase? Ryan, you want to try? Oh, your name is like stuck in my head, huh? Thanks for adding me on Facebook. Okay. That's how I remember his name now. He's like wondering, how do I remember your name? Yeah, okay. So the question, all right, what's my question? My question one more time, under what circumstances can cost of quality actually increase? Why does cost of quality increase? Overproduction, yeah, probably you could be overproduction. All right, I produce too much and I don't use it. I don't use products. So it's a misappropriation of resources or materials. What's another reason that cost of quality can increase? Underperforming staff, people who are not efficient. All right, people not doing what they're supposed to be doing. What are the reasons? Anybody? These are kind of questions I can ask, Law. These are thinking questions, and these are cognitive questions that I will ask. Under what circumstance? But yeah, it's not so simple. I make it a little bit more complex. But under what circumstances does cost of quality increase? What's that? A lack of utilization of resources, right? Lack of effective utilization of resources. What are your resources? What are your resources? Yeah, raw materials could be man, could be not having effective processes in place, lack of not using optimized equipment, right? Does that make sense? You realize how I always gravitate towards 4M1E? Absolutely correct. And I say, if you listen to what I have to say this last 5 weeks, you already know what's coming out in the exams, huh? All right? Yeah. So you gotta think about it from that perspective. So these are all just some of the ways in terms of how cost of quality can actually increase. I have other things here. Things like retesting equipment, retesting products, rebuilding products, reworking products, shipping products to the wrong customers. Producing scrap could be one of it. Sorting out products, increased cycle time, inefficient use of resources. So these are all different ways in terms of cost of quality, how cost of quality can actually increase. Is a higher cost of quality better or lower cost of quality better? Lower, absolutely. Why? Why? Let's talk about oh, not yet. All right, coming. I'll tell you why in a little while. Next slide, I'll tell you why. Yeah, but just a couple of things. Cost of quality can be referred to as economics, can be referred to as financials as far as organization is concerned. So whatever that comes to your mind, when these words actually resonate in terms of organizational success, in terms of income, revenue, profit, loss, cost. So it can be translated to many of these different components that you and I can think about. So COQ is somewhat linked to all these different numbers that I mentioned. And also, you want to try to minimize it because you want to maximize elements in terms of profits. So there are many KPIs. You talk about organizations. Talk about Motorola, for example. We had goals as far as COQ is concerned. We were measured in terms of COQ. We were identified based on the different categories that I'm going to introduce to you. We were measured based on those different categories on a week-to-week basis in terms of our KPIs itself. So why is COQ important? All right. So if you look at it, if you kind of like put it in a certain perspective, and allow me to see whether I can draw this out a little bit or illustrate it in terms of whiteboard. All right. So as all of you are very familiar, okay, you have your income. Let's say your income. All right. You have your income or your sales. All right. Okay. And over here you have your cost. Isn't that correct? Right? All of you know. I mean, this is again basic. What's in between sales and cost? What's in between? What's the gap? Profit. Thank you so much. All right. So there you go. So you have profit. All right, as most of you are very familiar where does cost of goods sit, cost of quality sit. This is where cost of quality sits. All right, so COQ sits here, including other elements like COG and whatever else that's available. Cost of goods. COG is cost of goods. All right, I mean you will find out. Okay, so the whole goal here is what? What's the goal here when you have an equation like this? Thank you so much. So the whole goal here is to try to maximize profit. You and I know it's so difficult to maximize profit, especially in this generation. Why? Because pricing is dropping. Why? Because cost is going up. As a result of it, profit is actually being reduced significantly. I mean, everybody here is actually familiar with that. So as engineers, what do? Well, engineers, you actually contribute to either this component, or engineers also contribute to this component if you walk into the sales line, right? If you're not in the sales line, if your responsibility is not in terms of bringing in revenue, then your responsibility is going to basically manage cost. Let me give you a trivia. Which of the guys get paid more? Who gets paid more? People who take care of the top line or the bottom line? Top line, Yeah, true, law. That is so true, That is very, very true. So imagine that you guys are going out there and you're going to get a salary. I know the average salary right now is how much? For NTU graduates. Any idea? 3K. Well, it's between 3.2 to 4K right now, students, you guys are coming out from NTU, NUS, it's about $3,200 to $4,000. That's what it is in terms of beginning salary. I'm like totally embarrassed to even tell you what my beginning salary was. All right, it was pittance, right? But yeah, because they actually just did a salary survey between SUTD and all the other universities, and they found that SUTD students were getting higher salaries. This was just done like probably 2 or 3 days ago. SUTD's graduates were coming out with a salary of $3,600, compared to your average of 32 to 4,000. All right, it all depends also where you work. Let me tell you that. I realize, and I've done my own survey, students who are all parked at Tuas probably make more money, make the most money, where you really sit in some ulu place. All right, I'm serious about that. I've talked to so many students out of NTU, out of NUS, and it's like whenever I run my leadership workshops there, I basically ask them, hey, how much do you make? And they make like basic of 3,200, and then they top up and top up and top up, that kind of thing. Why do they top up? Because you're sitting at some God-forsaken place. All right? No, serious. I'm not kidding. I'm totally not kidding. But that's how it is. So that's where your salaries are. Okay? So you're going in with a salary, and your salary is part of this, not COG. Your salary is somewhere in here. All right? So the whole organization's purpose is what? Try to minimize this, and sales is try to maximize this. That's the whole goal behind it. Why? Because the whole game out there is profit maximization. Right? And the only way, if you work as engineers, you contribute to minimizing the cost as much as possible. That's all you have to. That's how you need to think about it. That's why you're measured like crazy. And you're absolutely correct. People who are supporting this tend to be paid more than people who are supporting this. All right? Why? These guys are all basically revenue generators. Right? And some of you guys, actually, it's interestingly enough, fortunate for the last couple of tutorials, I actually detect some of you guys who are sales, who are totally salespeople. And I'm actually watching out for you guys, because you're the guys who are going to smoke in the exam papers like crazy. Right? I'm going to be watching. I've got my eyes on you guys. All right? Only thing is, I don't know what's your name. Right? I'm not saying salespeople smoke a lot. All right? But it's I didn't say that. But yeah, it happens. Okay. Come back. COQ. All right. So COQ. So the whole thing about COQ is out here, guys. That's where your COQ is. So in your equation, right, all organizations try to keep, so if you put a lot of effort in terms of trying to bring the COQ down, then there is a possibility that you could be maximizing. But again, that's only part of the equation. There is also another element as far as the equation is concerned. So you know, there are KPIs. There are KPIs for this, and this is where I talk about, you know, these KPIs. All right. So we ignore looking at sales and stuff like that. Okay. So done. So I've kind of like covered this. So let's, you know, a lot of companies, I mean, look at for instance, and this is kind of like outdated data, but I just kind of like still had it there. I probably should not put it in there. Local companies, a lot of companies out there are actually losing money annually in terms of poor product, poor service. And that's where you have organizations like Spring. You have organizations like SME who are always stepping out there trying to help these companies in terms of coming up with better products and better services. Right? Okay. I mean, if you guys can't read this, don't worry too much about it. The OCR wasn't working, right? Optical character recognition, that it wasn't really working. So that's why there's poor correlation as far as coming up with the words itself. But this was just a survey that I wanted to share with you guys. So companies lose money daily as a result of attempting to produce a product for the market. Why? Because customers' expectations change. Why? Because competitors' products change, right? I mean, how many of you actually, and we take a step back, how many of you actually looked at the Apple SE? All right, how many of you are planning on buying the product Apple SE? You know the Apple SE, the latest one, right? Yes, no? Or you don't know what I'm talking about. All right, so what they did, they actually took the brains of iPhone 6 and they put it into an iPhone 5 body, and that's what they did. All right, and they called it an SE, right? And they made it much more affordable right now. So there were a lot of people actually just complaining about it. All right. So you realize it's not the fact that Apple is actually running short of ideas itself, but they are also trying to come up with new ways in terms of how they can continue to generate revenue, right? And that's what a lot of organizations are doing. They are trying to be creative up here, right? So that they can generate more revenues and trying to keep this part of the equation as profitable as possible. So it affects, in many ways, it affects, they are trying to impact as far as the organization's margins are concerned, and also trying to minimize as far as loss of opportunity costs. So operating quality costs, all right? So if you look at it, COQ is determined by quite a number of categories that we're going to be talking about. 3 categories that we're going to be talking about. So quality costs are the total of the costs incurred by, number 1, investing in prevention. Investing in terms of prevention of non-conformance of requirements. So when you have specification, when you have products that don't meet specification, right, what happens? Then if you have products that don't meet specification, the chances of the product being accepted by customers are going to be at minimal. Right? So there's some possibility that they will accept it, but in a lot of cases they're not going to accept it. And I mentioned to you guys how you could get waivers from customers to ship products that comply to form, fit, and function. Right? So it fails the specification. You guys remember what I mentioned? It fails spec. So in other words, it does not comply to element of spec, but yet it applies to form, to fit, and to function, right? But you can't do too much, because if you keep doing it too long, too frequently, customers are going to basically step back and say, hang on, you are supposed to meet the specification. Yes, I can take sometimes form, fit, and function, but times I cannot take the form, fit, and function. I want the specification product. So it's a risk. So if it doesn't meet the spec, there is an element of risk. Or if it just go based on form, fit, and function, there is an element of risk involved in it. As a result of that, that can be part of your COQ. Now, appraising a product, another one is looking at appraising a product or service for conformance to requirement. So the first one, you talk about it from a perspective of design. The second one, you talk about it in terms of looking at your product, looking at your service, and how does it meet your customer requirements. So evaluation and feedback, all right? So I have a story to tell. Yesterday I was at, guess what I ate yesterday? Come on, humor me. Yeah, McDonald's. So there you go. You guys are getting really, really good at this. So I go to McDonald's. I kind of like, yesterday I decided to have a Big Mac. Right? I decided. So now you know why I run around McRitchie a lot more. Because I got to burn the calories of Big Mac and everything. So I was waiting for my Big Mac yesterday, and I got my order. And my favorite drink is a Coke. All right, totally Coke. I love Coke like crazy. So I ordered Coke. And I went back, I sat down, I had my meal, I was like opening up, and I was just waiting to dive into my lunch itself. And then I took a sip, and guess what? It didn't taste like Coke. Totally didn't taste like Coke. And you know, I know Coke, I know my Coke. I know my Coke. It didn't taste like Coke. Then I said, I kind of like look at the cap, on top of the cap, and what was punched in was Coke Zero. All right, it was Coke Zero. So I kind of like, I said, no, maybe this is already flat or my taste is wrong. So I tried it again, no good. So I went to the counter. I went to the counter to the lady and I said, ma'am, what drink is this? So she pulled it off me, she looked at it and said, oh, this is Coke Zero. Then I told her I wanted a Coke, right? Oh, then she apologized. She was really nice. She apologized and she gave me a Coke, right? But yeah, she gave me a Coke. So non-compliance, guys. So it's about non-compliance. Yeah, it's just a story, but it's about non-compliance in terms of how many times this happens. So if you ask me, it rarely happens. It rarely happens. So you talk about the frequency in terms of compliance to what a requirement is, and also failing to meet requirements in terms of consequences of failure to meet what is actually expected of the specific product itself. Now, if you look at this hidden cost of poor quality, all right, hidden cost. So hidden cost of poor quality can actually be broken up into 2 areas. Excuse me. So it's broken up into 2 areas. One is what you and I can see. Right? What you and I can see. I saw the fact that I got a Coke Zero instead of Coke. How does that make me feel? Well, okay lah, no big deal lah. But if it keeps happening over and over again, obviously my perception of the whole delivery process at McDonald's will be affected. Okay. Now I go back to the story at McDonald's again. All right. I don't know how many of you realize that the new system at McDonald's, you know what's a new system, right? You go pay for it, you get a number, and then you wait for your, right? I don't know how many of you have realized, but their fries are stale now. All right? I found out, I discovered fries are stale. And that's because they have a staging area for fries now. Previously, there was no staging area. Previously, you take the fries, you put your fries, and you place it there itself. Today, they take the fries from there, and they come and park it at a staging area so that when they pick their food, they can take your fries out. All right? Yeah. Oh, you didn't know? Go have a look at their process. They changed their process. They changed their process, and as a result of that, the experience I get in terms of eating fries has gone down significantly. So yesterday, what I did, so guys, I'm serious about this. Go have a look at the process, and then you will know what I mean. So what did I do? I obviously, fries are very important to me at McDonald's. So I went to McDonald's. This is going back to my Coke thing. So quite a number of things happened as far as McDonald's stand yesterday. So I saw a packet of fries being staged. Ideally, I didn't want that fry. All right, I definitely didn't want that fry. So I kind of stood there, and they took the fries and they put it on my tray. I immediately told them I don't want that set of fries. I wanted another set of fries, right? But good thing at McDonald's, they don't ask me why. All right, they don't ask me why. They just give me what I want. So which is good. So you see how these kind of little things can actually affect people. So it affected me. So it is not just about fries are not nice. Now I know, it's kind of like eating into me, such that I got to pay more attention in terms of why the fries are becoming stale. All right. So the next time, for those who like McDonald's, go have a look at the fries. They have a new staging area for their fries. And the new staging area does not keep the fries warm. And as a result of that, by the time they serve it, the crispiness is lost. Experience gone. All right, the original taste of fries is actually gone. Hey, I'm serious. I'm not kidding. All right, all right. So when you talk about hidden cost or poor quality, this is what happens. It's not just customers. It's not just customers say, okay, I will take it. I'll take the shipment in for form, fit, and function. This time I will do it. Next time you come back to me and say, can you take form, fit, and function? Why? Why so many times I have to do it? Okay, I do it. And then you come back a third time and say, can you please accept the law for form, fit, and function? Hang on. There's something wrong here, right? So it kind of like eats into you. It kind of like builds into you. And these are the elements that you don't realize. It's not evident, right? It's not evident as far as the consumer is concerned. It's not evident as far as the business is concerned, right? So we want to be really, really very careful that it doesn't go into this part of it. And also the fact is, what is the hidden cost? Which one are we measuring? We're just measuring this, right? We are fundamentally measuring this. Why? Because a lot of them can be tangible measurements, right? And you're absolutely correct that these now become intangible measurements. Right? Do you guys understand what I mean by tangible measurements, intangible measurements? Feelings. How do you measure feelings of someone towards your product? Right? Because what can happen, that can impact you in the long run in terms of whether Apple wants to buy chips from you. Right? Not the potato chips, ICs. All right, I'm talking about ICs here, right? What's that? All right, so yeah, these become really, really important. So we need to basically understand from the perspective of how we measure COQ. Do we just measure the tangible COQ, or are we measuring the intangible COQ? Extra handling, loss of goodwill, right? Did I tell you at Motorola one of our perks was basically actually shipping products for engineers. So we used to have, actually our system was rather ineffective at some point of time, such that we would push, because of JIT process. You know what's JIT, right? Just in time. Because of just in time process, in a lot of cases, we push the production of the product right to the last minute. It's pushed right to the last minute such that we now need to deliver the product tomorrow to a client in Europe. All right? Tomorrow to a client in Europe. And those days, probably FedEx was not reliable. FedEx, UPS was not reliable. The only reliable element was to put someone on a plane together with a package, send them all the way to Europe to deliver the product and come back. right? So, and this was one of the perks that we as engineers got at Motorola. All right, what's the perk? Basically, you are invited to do a hand carry for our customers to Europe. So you fly from Singapore to Europe, and oh, by the way, Motorola engineers all fly business class. All right, yeah, I know, nice, huh? So everybody's kind of like fighting for that opportunity. I'm serious, right? So we actually put people on planes, on business class to fly them over just to deliver, but we don't allow them, we don't give them a holiday, You know what I mean? So they go, they deliver, they go to a hotel, sleep overnight, next day jump on a plane and come back. All right, that was the only downside to that whole process itself. But that's a cost. That's a cost because we were not able to produce the products on time so that we can get products out to the customers on time. And all these were pegged against KPIs, right? We had to make sure we met customer shipment within a certain period of time. And because we did not, we incurred additional cost of putting someone, lost opportunity in terms of working hours and also flight costs and then shipping them out. Right? Why? Because we wanted to keep minimizing this element. That's the reason. We wanted to make sure that customers were still excited about us. Right? Customers didn't have to turn around and say, oh, these guys never ship products on time. Right? But these are the extent. So there were a lot of inefficiencies even within the Motorola system at that point of time, guys. But again, what are we talking about? We're talking about cost of quality. Hey, but do you think the cost really mattered? Yes or no? Does the cost matter? Actually, the cost matters, right? The cost matters. It all depends on how you translated the cost. Okay, what does that mean? Well, I give you an example. All right, I give you an example. This is all not coming out for exam. I just want to make sure it's clear. I just want to clarify how we did it in an organization as big as Motorola. So what we did was we looked at the number of shipments that we had on a monthly basis. All right, we look at the number of shipments that we have. How many products do we ship out every month? Every month we probably ship out 1 million products. All right, look at 1 million products. So we ship out 1 million products. Then what we do is we look at the cost. Sorry. Okay, right? All right, so we looked at the cost component over the number of products that we were actually shipping. So that's how you compute your cost. So guys, if you go and work in semiconductor companies, right? What does that mean? That means your salary gets amortized. Sorry. Can you hear me? Okay, that means your salary gets amortized over the number of products that you are shipping. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? All right, so based on number of products, so even your CEO, even the people in your company, the value that you actually contribute is amortized over the volume of the products that you're actually shipping. And in some cases, that's how we calculate this. Right? In some cases, we look at it from that perspective. So how much of scrap do you generate? Oh, the amount of scrap that I generate here in terms of dollars divided by number of products that I ship, which gives me a reliable cost per component. Does that make sense? So eventually, if you look at it, each product here is sold at $100. So there is probably an X percentage of this which is allocated to scrap. Right? So this cost comes in here in terms of the product cost. Does that make sense? Right? So where does cost go in? This cost goes into that allocation of the scrap cost, which is a component, and the component is not significant. In some particular cases, it can be as less as $1. Actually, $1 is too much already. All right. In a lot of cases, it comes up to 1/100 of a cent. you guys understand what I'm saying? 100th of a cent just for the scrap cost. So it's not really that significant. And yet what we do is we try to reduce this as much as possible. That's what organizations do. That's what financial people do out there. All right, so when you go talk to finance people, that's what they will explain to you. So COQ, guys, just to give you a perspective in terms of how you look at it for for customers. So there's the tangible element. There is the intangible element behind it. Okay. So measurement of trends. So what we do is, in a lot of cases, we look at trends where we are. So cost of poor quality, COPQ. Cost of poor quality. So we went to the extent of determining what was the cost of poor quality in this particular case, which is the sum of NVA. You know what's NVA, right? Non-value added. All right? Sum of non-value added versus your revenues itself. Now, that was your cost of poor. So you equate whatever the sum is. Non-value added activities. What are your non-value added activities? Scrap, poor quality, scrap yields, right? Rework, retest. All that became part of your NVA, non-value added. And if you divide that in terms of revenues, or even in terms of products, that gives you your cost in terms of, in this particular case, gives you a percentage as far as the production is concerned. So you could look at it from a trend basis. So that's what COPQ here, sum of all non-value added costs divided by the total revenue that is typically generated. So COPQ can be measured, could be reported, could be tracked in each of the business unit, and this is how we actually track it. Where is it, and where do we want it to be? And it's also, COPQ is also used to measure the progress within the organization, and also to identify what are some of the best practices that can be shared in terms of the organization itself. All right, so best practices either within the organization or even within the industry. What's that? Oh, okay. All right. So anyway, so this was the same thing as what we saw here. So again, you talk about inspection. So what we can measure in terms of inspection, warranty, rejects, and rework are all up here. But other things sometimes that we totally lose out from is inefficiencies as far as your system is concerned. Do you have this chart? You don't have this, All right. Well, this is pretty much the same thing as this one here, guys. But here, it kind of like a little bit more clearer in terms of grievances, costs, setup time, time value for money, opportunity cost, orders plan, excessive material orders planning, right? So some of these are not captured enough. So this is what gets captured in terms of your output or in terms of your results itself. So let's look at the different categories. I want to look at, let's look at the different categories. I ignore the slide just now. All right? Let's look at the different categories itself. So category of operating COQ can be divided into what we call cost of conformance and cost of non-conformance. So what's cost of conformance? All right? Well, cost of conformance, and I've been talking about this over the last 5 weeks, sometimes we need to assure that products are meeting a certain specification. That's what it means here in terms of cost of conformance. All right, what is the cost to actually carry out processes, to carry out activities or systems that ensure that there is compliance to specification? Oops, it's not there. To specification, right? So there is a cost associated to compliance, and that's where we look at elements like prevention cost. All right, what is prevention cost? So prevention cost in this particular case talks about preventing poor product, preventing poor services, and I'll give you some examples in a little bit. Appraisal cost. What is appraisal cost? Appraisal cost is typically the inspection cost, the measuring cost, evaluating, right? So what did I say? I said measurement, I said evaluating, I said inspection, or even auditing products or services to assure conformance to quality standards and performance requirement. Right? That's what it means in terms of appraisal. Right? So if you guys remember in my first tutorial, I talked about ship to stock. Right? I talked about ship to stock. So in a ship to stock process, what happens typically is we keep inspecting until we have a confidence level that the products that we are receiving meet the minimum requirements, right? And then after which we stop inspecting them. So that kind of like goes into a little bit from an appraisal perspective itself. So I appraise the product to make sure that the product is actually working well. So we have also moved towards how we look at distributions, right? Rather than just inspecting, we are trying to predict through distributions whether the products actually meet the spec or they don't meet the spec. So that's part of cost of conformance, right? The second element is known as cost of non-conformance. Very straightforward. All right, very, very straightforward. Cost of conformance is cost to ensure conformance to the specification. The other one is cost that is associated to not conforming to the customer's requirement or specification itself. Here there are two categories behind it. One is what we call internal failure. What is internal failure? Speaks for itself. Cost that is generated by cost that is generated by not capturing the rejected parts within the process itself. I'm sorry, by capturing, excuse me, that was wrong. By capturing the rejected parts within the process. That's what it means in terms of internal failures. So failures that are incurred internally, that is part of internal failure, cost of non-conformance. What about those failures that you don't catch in the factory? What about failures that you don't catch in your process or your system? What about the failures that actually, it worked well within the operations, but it went out there and got kicked, rejected? That goes into the external failure component. Which cost is the highest? External cost is probably, in a lot of cases, it is the highest. Why? What are some reasons? Why do you think someone, oh, this is a good question, huh? Not for this next semester. So why do you think, what are some of the reasons that make the external cost the highest? Reputation, very good. All right, somebody said reputation, right? What reputation? Well, I shipped a product out there. I mean, think about Toyota, right? All of you guys are very familiar with Toyota. Doesn't Toyota have a Six Sigma program in place? Yes, they do. Why did they do a recall of 9,000? 900,000, whatever it is, X number of cars, right? They still did a recall despite the fact that they have a Six Sigma process out there, right? Because they know the cost associated. If they don't capture it and if they don't recall it, they're probably going to incur costs which is far more greater. So what are they trying to do? They are trying to minimize the cost between here and here, right? That's what Toyota is basically trying to do right now. Does that make sense? Right? So my question still stands. Why is external cost the highest? What are some of the reasons in your mind that external cost is the highest? So one was reputation. What are the reasons? What's that? You get sued. Well, very good. I mean, look at the Toyota case. One of the reasons why they do the recall is because they don't want to get sued. Right? What's another reason? Other reasons you can think about is because you're pretty much, you got a full product itself, right? If you remember, this has a lower cost because if you capture a problem within your process, you can try to maintain your cost here as compared to your external failure cost, right? Hey guys, can I ask you something? Which cost do you think? So we know that the cost here is the highest, but in organizations, which cost do you think is the highest? What's that? Did somebody say internal? Why is it internal? Any idea why is it internal? What's that? It's not just tangible, but in a lot of organizations, what we want to do, we want to incur the cost here before it goes out here. So in a lot of cases, you will find these people will tend to be more critical here so that they can protect the interest of the customer itself. That's why, what do we do, guys? And that's why we do a lot of accelerated testing here. Why? Because I want the product to fail here rather than the product to fail here. Right? So I do accelerated testing, I do live testing on the product, I subject it to shock, I subject it to salt spray, I subject it to temperature, humidity, all kinds of things. Right? I subjected all that. Why? Because I am trying to weed out, I'm trying to filter out all the weak products here as much as possible. Right? So there is definitely a balance in terms of how we scrap. Are we over rejecting here? You're absolutely correct. We could be over rejecting here. And I saw a lot of over rejecting. We experienced a lot of over rejection. Why? Because people became very kiasu. They wanted to reject here rather than go out here. All right, so that there is obviously that balance of it that needs to be maintained. All right, so there are two categories. What are the two categories? Cost of conformance, cost of non-conformance. Let's look at some of these categories. What is this? Oh, this is prevention cost. Okay, so this is prevention cost. All right, a prevention cost is non-conformance or conformance? Very good. So prevention cost is conformance. All right, cost of conformance, right, Ryan? Yeah, thank you very much. All right, so there you go. So prevention cost includes all these various items, like quality planning, design verification. So the cost of all activities that are specifically designed to prevent poor quality in products and services. So you prevent. So this is a prevention element. So what's the thing of a prevention element? What's that? Prevention. What's that? It's very reactive. All right. If you look at prevention, it tends to be you're creating. Well, it's preventive. All right. It's preventive. It's kind of like quality of design. Right? It's kind of like quality of design in this particular case. So there's a prevention element. How do I prevent a product from failing? How do I capture a product? How do I forcefully fail a product before it even actually passes through the process? All right? I'm not sure whether you understand what I'm saying, but that's prevention. So look at a lot of the prevention. All right? So if you look at prevention, how do you prepare the process? How do you prepare people so that they are ready to actually capture these problems? Or if the system, if there are any issues, the system will actually pick up the problem. That's what it means in terms of prevention costs. Let's look at the second one. So maybe it becomes a little bit more easier. So appraisal costs. So appraisal was very easy, right? It's a cost of conformance, very easy. Inspection costs. All right, you look at it from an inspection perspective, incoming materials inspection, laboratory acceptance tests. Why do you have laboratory? Because I'm trying to see whether the product is acceptable or not acceptable. Test facility equipment, checking labor, source inspection. So anything that is related to inspecting, putting in an inspection component into a product itself, that's what it falls into an appraisal cost. So measuring, evaluating, and auditing products. So guys, you got to look at the purpose. I repeat, you have to look at the purpose. You cannot look at the words that are here just like that, but you got to look at the purpose. Don't even memorize this, because what I would do is I probably won't give you this exactly word for word. I probably would change it a little bit. So you need to analyze, you need to think about it, what does that word mean, and then try to come out and determine which bin it actually goes into. All right, so the purpose is very, very important, right? So prevention versus appraisal. So any component where it requires an inspection process, a checking, a referencing, a comparison with your specification goes into the appraisal component itself. So that's why I say assure conformance to quality standards and performance requirements. Does that make sense? All right. Okay. Good. Good. We'll find out whether you understand in a little while. All right. So this is cost of conformance. Let's move to cost of non-conformance. So it's clear in your mind, cost of conformance. This is cost of non-conformance. You have your internal failure, external failure. So you got to look at it, and this is probably the simplest way of looking at it. Internal failure is whatever failure that is actually introduced within your operations. All right, within your operations. So for instance, you talk about material review, corrective action, and I promise you I will try to keep the words as simple as possible. Material Review Board, MRB. And Material Review Board is a board that reviews rejected components, whether you want to accept it, whether you want to rework it, or whether you want to use it. Sorting. Why do you sort? Because I have a reject, so that's the reason why I'm sorting. Why do I scrap? Because I've scrapped internally. I rework, I repair. So all these are kind of like costs occurring prior to delivery or shipment of the product. Oh, I like that. All right, so before I ship it out, any scrap before I ship it out falls into internal failure cost. All right? Cost of non-conformance. The second one is external failure. Straightforward, we look at external failure, compliance investigation, customer compliance investigation, product liability, recall, return materials, warranty claims, penalties, and so on and so forth. These are costs incurred after it goes out to the customers. Right? And I'll show you a couple of examples a little bit later on. All right, we're going to take a break right now, but when you come back from your break, I'm going to have your examples. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give you some examples and let you go play around with it and categorize them, bin them into those 4 categories. See you guys back in 10 minutes. You don't want a break. So let's carry on with where we left off. As promised, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the slides and show you a couple of categories. And what you need to do is you need to put them into either appraisal costs, prevention costs, failure costs, and internal failure costs. Some of you wanted to see some of the notes that were put up there. I will flash those slides in a little while. But in the meantime, if I can put this up here, right? So if I can put this up here, if you can have a look at it, spend a few minutes, guys, talk to each other, and what you need to do, there are 12 elements here. All right, there are 12 elements here, and what you need to do is 12 elements is you need to bin it. You need to bin it into those 4 categories. All right, so please look at each other and talk to each other. You got 10 minutes. Let's go. Challenge the person. The person gives you something, then challenge the person. Talk to each other. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Okay, all right. So I think you had enough time to either mentally or on a piece of paper try to draw out these different categories. What do you think about the list? What's your thought process about this list? What do you think about it? Easy, not easy, don't understand, some don't understand, confusing. Piece of cake. You all understand everything? Yes, no? Why are you so shy one? Huh? Yeah. So, I mean, if you don't, please, you got to let me know. So I've been kind of like fine-tuning the language or the words that I actually utilize over a period of time. Huh? I have been fine-tuning it so that make it a little bit more generic in terms of terms rather than make it too specific and you don't understand what it means. I also want to give you the context behind cost of quality. Yeah? So I mean, all of you guys know there is the suppliers, right? The suppliers into the, I'm going to call this operations, and also this goes out to the customer. All right, so if you put a block diagram in terms of that perspective, so if you put it in terms of that this perspective, right? So your COQ is basically determined. I got to use a blue color. Your COQ, right? Your COQ is basically determined at this point. So you're looking at all your cost of conformance, right? And cost of non-conformance, conformance from the perspective of this operations here. So this operations could be anybody. So in my case, maybe this was Motorola was over here. All right. So if you're looking at COQ from that perspective, I am not looking at COQ from this perspective. I'm not looking at COQ from this perspective. Even though the fact that if I ship this product out to the customer and it gets rejected and it comes back here, it impacts me rather than impacting anybody else. Does that make sense? Okay, you need to make sure that that context is actually stained in your brain when you talk about COQs. So from there, you can actually now look at it a little bit more and try to understand it. Okay, let's look at the first element that I have up there. What's the first element? What cost is it? Sorry, this is the part where you tell me the answer, not I tell you the answer. Want to try or not? So, what is it, sir? Yeah, the first one, inspection salary. Item number 1, what is it? Yeah, I thought you all discussed already. Second one? Sorry, non-negotiable. We do first one. I'll come back to you on the second one. So, what's the first one, sir? What's the negotiation process? All right, we'll come back to you for the second one. First one, I will. Oh, sorry, excuse me. You got me there. I'm talking about the first one. He's talking about second one has an appraisal cost. So sorry, sir. So inspection salary is appraisal cost. Is that what you're saying? Anybody disagree with him or not? All right. Thank you for not disagreeing with him. That's absolutely correct. Why is it appraisal cost? Because it's inspector salary. So the cost that is associated to allocate resources to inspect quality into the product, right? So that becomes an appraisal cost, which is good. What's the second one? Can you stop saying the first one, the second one? You're confusing me now, huh? All right, we just did the first one, and now you want to go back to the first one. No, what do you say? You say it's prevention cost. Is that what you're saying? What about the rest of you? No, customer deviation request is what cost? All right, can you please be more specific? Is it appraisal? Is it prevention? Is it internal? Is it external cost? And he says it is? It is? External cost. Did you say external cost or what? What did you say? You say prevention cost. Why do you say prevention cost? Huh? We're looking at number 2. Huh? Okay, all right. Because you are planning for? Well, this is customer deviation. What is customer deviation request? What's a customer deviation request? What does it mean? All right, come back again. Customer deviation request. What is that? What is customer deviation request? I mean, look at the words, son. It's nothing magical about the words. Customer deviation request. What does that mean? What are you doing? What's the process? Customer asks for. Does the customer ask for a change in the product? So where does the deviation come in? What is deviation? What is deviation, guys? What's that? What is deviation? Yes, correct. Moving away from the expected. Correct. Deviation basically means you move away from the expectation of the customer. You move away from the expected product specs. That's what it means by customer deviation request. I am requesting customer for deviation to ship products which do not comply to their specification. Yeah, law, correct, law. All right. Thank you very much. So you need to look at the perspective. Hang on. Can we ask customer deviation request? I told you, yes, we can. Because the customer can look at it from form, fit, and function, the 3 Fs, right? Even though it doesn't comply, they can still adopt the product from form, fit, and function. Remember, they can do it once, they can do it twice, third time. They're probably going to ask you questions, huh? Right? So, the answer for number 2, customer deviation request, the answer is, yeah, thank you. It is external. Huh? All right. Third one, procedure writing. So you're writing up procedures. Third one, procedure writing. What is that? What category would that go into? And why? Who would like to try? Anybody here would like to try? Oh, come on, not anybody, huh? Who would like to try? I think that's the question. I'm sorry I can't come up there. I'm still on a leash. Huh? You notice my leash is here, so I can't come out there. Yeah, funny. But yeah, so procedure writing. Hello. Procedure writing. What's that? Prevention. Why is it prevention? What's the rationale behind it? Huh? Because, why are you writing a procedure? It's like a plan, that's right. So it's a procedure writing is a plan in terms of what do you expect people to do and not to do in the manufacturing of a product. Thank you so much. Ayo, this one is so easy. Number 4 is so easy. Come on. Field warranty. What's that? External, absolutely correct. Cannot go wrong. Huh? So anything in terms of customers, related to customers, anything that's coming back from customer, anything that incurs a cost. Why? Because the customer has rejected the lot. Or the customer is trying to claim warranty in this particular case is associated to external failures. Huh? I mean, I'm not asking you what can you do with it, but a lot of things what we can do with field warranties, we will take it back, we will refurbish the field warranties, put in some good parts to it, and test it, and we send it out to all of you. All right? Those are the refurbished products. Huh? Good. All right, number 4. Number 5, calibration of inspection equipment. I knew you'd say appraisal. Anybody has got another answer? Prevention. Why prevention? Because it is calibration. Absolutely correct. So you must look at the purpose behind it, guys, here. Right? Thank you very much. So the emphasis, people who looked at inspection equipment, straightforward, very easy law, appraisal law. Right? But the process here is calibration, which is part of your prevention process. Good. Look at the purpose of it. Huh? Thank you very much. Move on to the next one. Quality planning. Planning quality into the process. It is? Huh? Yes, correct. You're absolutely correct. It's part of your prevention process. Huh? The next one is item number 7, final product testing. Final product testing, what is it? Internal? Final product testing is what? Huh? Not internal? No, right? No, okay, correct. Appraisal testing. So absolutely correct. Final product testing is appraisal. What does that mean? That means the products just before we ship. There are quite a number of phases. One is we actually do final product testing. One we do finished goods testing. All right. One is final product. Final product is before I package. Finished goods is I randomly audit products which are already in boxes and I pull it out. Finished good inspection, also known as FGI. Yeah, but don't worry, you won't have questions on acronyms. I promise not to use acronyms. If I use acronyms, and I'm trying to think whether I did use acronyms. If I use acronyms, it will be in bracket. I will tell you what it is, guys. I'm not testing you in terms of acronyms. Okay, good. Let's move on to the next one. Number 8, internal rejection. Yeah, very obvious, right? Okay, that's an obvious one. That was like really lame. I thought it was a lame one. So I've got to be more creative. What about quality auditor training? Quality auditor training. Appraisal or prevention? Why prevention? Training. Fabulous. You got to look at the purpose again, guys. I can't emphasize enough that you look at the purpose behind it. All right. Once you get the knack of looking at the purpose, it becomes much more easier. Sucks. I didn't know. Like 2 o'clock already. Sorry, guys. Next one, manufacturing study. Number 10. Number 10, manufacturing study. What is it? Manufacturing study prevention. Why? Why is number 10 prevention? Why is number 10 prevention? Why is manufacturing study prevention? What do you think, sir? You agree prevention? Huh? Oh, you think it's appraisal? What do you think, sir? Prevention. What do you think, ma'am? Why? Appraisal. Well, sounds like we are broken up. All appraisals decide prevention. Prevention. Why appraisal? Okay, so you are going for prevention. You're just seated on the wrong side. Oh, okay, that's all right. All right. Why appraisal? Any reasons why appraisal? No, right? Okay, sorry, then I got to give it to prevention law. Yeah, absolutely correct law. All right, so prevention is absolutely correct. The rationale behind prevention, that is absolutely correct. Huh? So thank you very much. Huh? I know, suspense moment. Huh? Just creating the, the resilience for suspense when you're seated at the CA paper or the final exam, if this comes out. Huh? What's the last one? Repairing finished product. Repairing finished product. Internal, very good. Last one, process capability studies. Prevention, huh? Correct. Absolutely correct, prevention, guys. So you guys understand, right? So if I were to go back to ooh, come on, back. Ooh. I've got to put this. Hello, why am I getting this? Sorry guys, just give me a minute. All of a sudden it kind of like doesn't want to load here. NTU. Slides. Give me lecture. Latest slides. Okay, there you go. So a couple of people asked me to make sure that we put up the purpose again. So I'm going to put the purpose up there again, so you can actually look at the purposes. There you go, guys. Here's your purpose. Right? Can you see that? Okay, so there you go once again. You look at the okay, all right, there you go. So there you go. Those are the purposes. Some of you were asking for these purposes. So these are things that need to be clear in your mind, the purpose itself. I probably won't test you on the purpose because it will be reflected in terms of how you bin and how you categorize the different categories itself. All right, does that make sense? All right, and that's how it's going to be. And I will try to be more lenient with the words, but I realize that you guys did very well with these words. Okay, so I'm going to probably keep it at that level. So that's that. The next one is appraisal. All right, what's the purpose of appraisal? Measuring, evaluating, auditing products or services to assure conformance to quality standards and performance requirements. Failure of control cost occurring prior to delivery and shipment of the product or the furnishing of the service to the customer. And you mean these are not there in your slides? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. If you want to take pictures, take pictures. If you want this, write to me and I'll give it to you. The cost occurring after delivery or shipment of the product and during or after furnishing of the service to the customer itself. Simple. That's it. Look at the purpose, guys, because once you get the purpose wrong, the rest of the question is going to be wrong if it comes out in the exam. Does that make sense? Because you categorize it wrongly, you're going to have wrong set of results. So it's kind of like a growing, what you call it, growing mistake, a growing mistake. What is that? All right, it's a growing mistake, because you make a mistake up front, eventually it goes down and makes a mistake. I didn't understand what you meant, but that's okay. All right, okay, so let's move on. Guys, there are 5 other areas. I mean, we talked about these 4. These 4 are the most important, but there are other quality costs that you just need to take note of. Just take note of it. And this is where sometimes you realize some of these elements, and some of you haven't asked me these questions, but there is always the element of indirect quality costs. What is indirect quality costs? So when I talk about indirect quality costs, these are extra manufacturing operations made standard because of uncertain quality. So in some particular case, it could be things like retesting, things like 100% testing, things like trying to find a contractor to do testing, 100% screening, and so on and so forth. So sometimes these are considered as indirect quality costs. There is also an element of vendor quality costs, or supplier quality cost itself, which is associated to additional cost in managing efforts with the suppliers. So if I need to manage effort with the suppliers, I need to make sure suppliers have got their systems in place. Those become part of the vendor quality costs. The other one is also intangible quality costs. Again, these are things that you can't measure. Mismanagement of customer relationship. How do you manage your customer relationships? And in the result of mismanaging them, does that result in they not buying more products from you? Other elements like equipment quality costs. Testing equipment, capacity of equipment. I need more equipment. Oh, by the way, if I buy more equipment, how does that go into COQ? I buy new equipment. How does that, in what category does it go into COQ? It doesn't go into COQ. All right, it doesn't go into COQ. All right, because why? Those are what we call capital investment. Right? So capital investment, so I need a capital investment so that I can ramp up in terms of my capacity within the facility. That's not part of COQ. All right, so you need to understand that. I used to make this even more complicated, these kind of questions. So I used to put in a lot of non-quality cost to quality cost, then you had to sort that out. So I started leaving out non-quality cost itself. So equipment quality cost, there's also elements like life cycle, user-oriented costs, where you talk about high customer orientation, management time, dealing with customers, generating data for customers, and so on and so forth. These are all part of value-added services for clients. So these are other elements of non-quality costs. The other thing I also want to share with you just very quickly is economic model in terms of quality costs, and something that you need to understand. What is this? No, this is gone. This is finished already, right? This is the tutorial part of it. Right? Okay, so the economic models of quality costs, which I just want to share with you a little bit from a traditional perspective, and if you're looking at this, your total cost, if you look at your total cost is equals to cost of non-conformance to cost of conformance, right? So if you look at elements in terms of your failure cost, which is your cost of non-conformance, all right? And if you look at cost of conformance itself, so there is actually a meeting point where you can determine a minimum total cost. So in other words, there is a balance, guys. There is an optimal point where your total COQ comes to the minimum point, after which it either is increasing on both sides of it. And what is that point? So that's basically based on this economical model itself. Cost of non-conformance at a specific point meets with the cost of conformance, and that's kind of like the optimal point that you want to actually work with, right? So that's just showing you an example. Another one is also the emerging process. If you're talking about an emerging process for the new processes, basically, yeah, I can look at 100% quality conformance, but you're also looking at total costs, which is kind of like the minimum at a certain point here itself, unlike the traditional process. So with the inclusion of automation, all right, with the inclusion of automation, it creates an emerging process that is somewhat like this. It's just an economic model. If you're not really familiar with it, it's okay. It's cool. Right? So setting up a COQ system. I'm going to go through really, really fast on this, guys. This is setting up a COQ system. So when you talk about setting up a COQ system, what are the things that you are really, really looking at? Well, number one is you're looking at how to capture COQ. Capturing COQ is a massive, massive element, and it involves both the manufacturing people and also the finance people. Why do you need a finance people there? Because they are looking at making sure that the system is practical, the system is able to collect the information, and the system is able to actually report the financial statement back to the management team itself. So there you go, roles of the financial control: assign quality costs, compile data, and produce organizational and also departmental COQ report. So a lot of that also happens. So financial department is always capturing this information, and they are reporting. They are helping the quality department or the manufacturing department to actually produce this report itself. So accounting report, let me show you the accounting report. Where's the accounting? Oh, there you go. All right. So if you look at the accounting report, cost of failure, what's the definition of that, and what is it in terms of source of data? So when you talk about scrap, you're talking about material scrap, or things that's used towards parts that cannot be used again, right? And same thing for service and also repair. So we realize what the important thing here is how you have different account numbers, right? So why? Because we need to capture this information and we need to report it in an accurate basis itself. I talked about this at the beginning of the class where you can look at COQ in terms of absolute dollars, in terms of percentage of cost, or looking at other elements in terms of labor cost base, manufacturing cost base, and so on and so forth, right? Again, this is just purely information for you guys. Here's an example of it in terms of annual quality costs. So cost of failure, look at the different categories, how is that information captured, and cost of appraisal. Interestingly enough, you realize that's like 80-20 there, right? So if you talk about 80% is actually associated to cost of failure. Cost of failure in terms of repair, waste scraps, downgrading of products, that's about 80%. And the balance goes into your appraisal and also your prevention costs, right? Is that a good model? Well, typically it's a good model so that you ensure, and as long as this failure cost does not include external defective work, if you're looking at this, all these are internal failure costs. So you realize why the cost for internal failure is always kept high, so that you protect the customers and not ship them the bad products itself. Pareto, right? And if you look at some of my past year exam questions, they kind of like base it off Pareto. I put it on a Pareto basis. So you look at failure, look at appraisal, look at prevention, do the same thing that what we talked about in our tutorials. You realize how you have 3 X's. Everybody knows 3 X's, right? And then over here it's dollars and cents, not number of defects, but you realize this is the dollars and cents which I actually talked about in my tutorial itself. So here's another representation that you just need to look at. This is in terms of different areas: production area, quality control, engineering, service, and so on and so forth. And then what we do is we break up the conformance and non-conformance costs into these 4 areas. So we allocate costs, guys, based on these different departments. So if you look at it, a significant amount of it, like for instance, goes into production, lesser into quality control, lesser even into engineering, and probably, the largest here is in terms of services. So why? Because you have a lot of internal failures, external failures. Then you look at your overall numbers. So from these overall numbers, you realize it's 10.4% in this particular case for this example. These are all just examples that I just pulled out. And obviously, I use histograms, all right? So we use histograms looking at numbers on the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and also fourth quarter basis in terms of how you stack up these histograms, and you can look at how it has been trending. All right, again, I talked about trending. You look at how it's been trending over these 4 different quarters. Still not enough information just based on 4 quarters, but if you collect more information, you may find that this may be repeating itself, where you have the highest scrap during the 3rd quarter. It happens that it's all very cyclic, guys. When you go out there, you're going to find trends that basically are cyclic for COQ and for many other things. More information on trend analysis. All right, again, we worked on a process where we continuously try to reduce external failures and internal failures, right, while managing the process. Can this be actually optimized? It definitely can be optimized in terms of how we look at utilizing them as far as the process and not being really over-rejecting. So other areas you can also look at cost is measurement tool, your programming tools, different kinds of tools that you're actually using within your process. And this is one of the interesting things that I wanted to share with you guys. Time when failure is found. The later you have, the later you actually detect a failure, you realize that your failure cost actually increases. Right? And this is where I asked you the question earlier, why is it when it goes out to customer, that's your highest cost? Right? So that's your liability cost, which is out there. Prevention cost is one of the earliest part where you're actually finding. But as you're building the product over the whole process, you're going to find the cost of these, the products, scrap cost of the products, or failure cost of the products is actually going to be going up significantly. Yeah? So, right? So defects detected by the customer after delivery is part of where it is most costly, as compared to within the operations and even at the beginning part of the process, which is what I have been mentioned also before. All right, so that's about it. I don't want to cover the rest. The rest is pretty much straightforward, guys. Just to give you an idea, yeah, go have a look at this. Again, these are all just references in terms of what COQ is, right? So just before I leave, there you go, guys. These are my details. So just in case if you guys got questions, once again, drop me an email or drop me an SMS, and I will facilitate your questions itself. If not, if I don't see you, I'm probably going to see you next Tuesday, and then I'm going to see you again for the final exams. But please connect with me. If you want, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, and it'll be great to have you guys there. All right, guys. Thanks a lot for the last 5 weeks or five lectures. I hope you guys learned. I think that's the most important part. You know, I enjoyed myself. I enjoyed myself, and I obviously learned from you guys. Thank you so much. All right, guys? What's it? Questions? Any questions? No questions, right? No questions. Class ended. Thank you very much. See you next Tuesday, guys. See you back here next Tuesday. Thank you.